HCG is the drug of choice for bodybuilders to maintain our manliness and protect our ego, but this miracle drug may not quite be as safe as we once thought. It's used for fertility, just to keep testicular size full, and for testosterone levels in natural. But it's come to my attention that this drug may be eating your brain and causing dementia. If you ever played the mobile game Pandemic, I guess we've kind of all been playing Pandemic for the last 3 years. You know exactly what prions can do. Prions are one of the most messed up forms of diseases that we can have. The most famous prion illness that you probably heard of is mad cow disease, and that's pretty much as close to a zombie apocalypse as we've ever come. Prions are a type of protein which can cause brain abnormalities. The diagnosis for most prion diseases are pretty grim, ranging from CJD, which quickly leads to severe disability and death within a year, to something called fatal insomnia. So yeah. Seems to be a bit of a trend developing here. Symptoms include rapid dementia, difficulty walking, hallucinations, confusion, fatigue, and difficulty speaking. So it seems prions are pretty nasty. Well, why is this all worrying for people using HCG? Prion diseases tend not to show up for a hell of a long period of time. I'm talking decades. There are people who are infected with stuff like mad cow disease who had to go and get tested because otherwise you wouldn't find out for decades, and then if you did develop a disease, you'd probably die pretty quick, so they need to get ahead of it. So basically, if you don't know, you might not find out until it's far too late. Get prion disease in your 20s, it comes out in your 50s, you become disabled and die. And the big problem with this, of course, is that unless we actually can identify a cause of prion disease, we probably won't find out until it's way too late, and anyone who's been infected is going to start facing consequences. So why does this affect bodybuilders? Well, the HCG in question is u-HCG. And can you guess what the U stands for? I'll give you a second. It's urine. And for most bodybuilders on the street, this is the stuff that you're going to be getting unless you're paying a pretty penny. And I presume due to the methodology of how it's extracted, back in 2005, we started looking into it for possible side effects and issues. There was actually a consensus study in 2005 looking into the possibility of HCG transmitting prions to humans, and it seems like we don't have anything to worry about. Whilst further research is needed to resolve the uncertainty as to whether urine in human TSE contains infectivity, current evidence indicates that, with respect to the risk of TSE infection, brackets prion infection, urinary-derived gonadotropins appear to be safe. That was a mouthful. Now, they do say, in their fairness, there needs to be more checks. We should put processes in place in the medical institutions to make sure that we can screen for these things. No real hard guidelines or regulations were introduced from this. 6 years pass. We believe that, according to all the scientists, HCG is fine to use. We can keep our balls full with no consequences. And then 2011 happens. Researchers discovered some troubling new information. The presence of protease-sensitive prion protein in urinary-derived injectable fertility products containing HCG, HMG, and HMG-HP. HMG is another fertility drug. Suggests that prions may co-purify in these products. Intramuscular injection is a relatively effective route of transmission of human prion disease. The risks of urine-derived fertility products could now outweigh the benefits, particularly considering their availability of recombinant products. What does that mean? Although we can't be sure if your HCG contains prions, there is a chance, and they have been detected. The odds suggest that if you were to inject HCG every other day, and you were to do this for the whole of your bodybuilding career, there's a decent chance of exposure here. And the issue is that injection into the muscle would be a really effective way to get prions into your body. This means we need to really reconsider the risks longer term. There are alternatives out there. As they say, recombinant HCG, r-HCG, is not going to have this problem. But for most people on the street, and unless you're specifically being told it's r-HCG, you ain't going to get it because it's more expensive and harder to come by. So would I use HCG? This is the big question, and it's something which I made a decision on a couple of weeks back. I've actually stopped using HCG. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this. My fertility levels are going to be subject to a lot of stress, a lot of suppression, and to be honest, I'm not convinced that HCG alone is going to maintain my fertility during my anabolic exposure. I also believe that there are routes around this in terms of using HCG in a shorter term, more condensed period alongside HMG to increase fertility when the time does come, then I may want to look at that. The frequency of injection, the amount of this that I'd be putting into my body, and the relatively unvetted nature of the sources for HCG that you get on the street just put me off. And I believe that if it wasn't for this issue, I would still be running this to this day. It is good for the ego, it's good for the sex life, it's good for a lot of things. However, I don't feel like it adds enough to risk exposing myself to an illness that's going to literally rot my brain and cause dementia. Now, nothing conclusive has been found on this. They are still using u-HCG, although our HCG is much more preferred. There hasn't been any form of outlawing of this product. However, I would just suggest you all to be a bit more careful and consider whether you actually need to add this into your stack. If you can get your hands on our HCG, then more the merrier, go for it. However, u-HCG, I'm going to give it a pass for now. Props to Matt Haslam for bringing this to my attention initially. It's actually really interesting and it's completely changed the way that I have a relationship with that drug. And look, if you did enjoy this video, if you did find it insightful, please do like and subscribe, and I'll be back with you soon for more common sense bodybuilding tips.